Going on, guys? Up here at Brushy Mountain today on a solo ride. I thought today'd be a good day to do about a 100-hour review on the KTM 350 EXC. Kind of put some thoughts out there. I'm getting past my arm pump stage of ride, so having to take it a little bit slow. Been pretty sick, so anyways, let's talk about this bike. After 100 hours of riding it, going past the first stages of maintenance, and what I think about it, what I like, what I don't like. There's a lot of double-edged swords for dual sport. There's with every dual sport, doesn't matter what flavor you get, Honda, KTM, Cowie, Yamaha, doesn't matter. There's always give and take, no matter what the bike is. 300, 450, 500, your 650s, whatever, all the way up to your touring bikes. There's give and take on a lot of them. A lot of people buy these 350s. They're thinking they're the Swiss Army knife of dirt bikes, that it can do all. It's the answer to everything. That's the farthest thing from the truth. This bike does exactly what you set it up for. That's it. It will not do everything good. It will not do the road good and dirt good, but it will do what you set it up for good. So I set this bike up to race hare scrambles, to ride hard single track.
10 seconds.
That was fun. There's no good, any dual sport rider, you ask them, there's no good road and dirt tire. There's not. It'll do road good, it'll wear well, but it'll be slick on some hard rock or hard pack or dirt. But then you have your dirt tires that do good on rock and dirt, and they wear out immediately the second you're on the road. And if you race or ride a lot of single track, you're going to change your gearing. This is it with any bike. It's not just this bike. You're going to change your gearing, and it's going to do well in the dirt. It's going to climb hills very good, and then you're going to be strung out on the road doing 50 miles an hour wide open. So I'm going to ride a little bit. I'm not going to bore you sitting here. I just stopped at the overlook. Check this out. Pretty sweet. Hopefully you can hear me while I ride. I'm going to try to talk and ride at the same time. So. Not really sure where to go from here. See a green circle. Let's go up this green circle. Anyways, where this bike excels, this thing will absolutely eat in some single track. It will absolutely do good in hard single track off-road conditions. It'll do good more or less in a hard enduro situation. It'll keep up with 300. Keep up with the 250Xs. It does really well in a hare scramble situation racing. Most of that stuff isn't too tight or technical. pretty wide open, kind of like Brushy. Suspension on this bike, dude, KTM absolutely hit the nail on the head with this suspension. This is the best KTM I've ever ridden. I've ridden 300s, 250 XCs, 450 XCs, 500s. My dad had them all, the 200 whenever they were out. And I'm telling you, this bike right here is the most Japanese feeling suspension setup I have ever ridden on a KTM. Sorry, I'm not riding to my best of my abilities today, dude. I am as sick as I could possibly have been. So I'm just out here playing today, trying to get some seat time. Anyways, suspension is awesome, especially once you set it up, get it valved for you. This bike was pretty much good for me. I'm in the weight range of this bike out of the box. But like I said, it doesn't do, it's not a Swiss Army knife. No dual sport is. You look at the Honda, the 450 RL, and you're looking at a heavy bike that's not going to be great in the woods. You look at the 500 KTM, I've ridden them in the woods. They're not that fun. They're very fast, very heavy, and it's a bit much. The 350 in the woods is a better option by a leaps and bounds, to be honest with you. If you ride Yamahas, I've ridden Yamahas my entire life. That's my first KTM. I've drank the orange Kool-Aid, dude. I'll have another one. I will 100% buy another KTM after this bike. One thing I do find, and I have found with this bike, and I feel like it doesn't matter if it was a KTM or any other bike, I find myself wanting two bikes. I want one set up for dual sport and one to come out here and rip on this stuff, you know, or racing. But I don't see, you know, this bike is set up for this. You can tell. I mean, just ripping up that, I can lug up anything. The suspension isn't all over the place. It just absolutely rips. It's so fun. By far the most fun motorcycle I've ever owned. Next to a YZ250X. I will give that bike all the credit it deserves. That's one of the more fun bikes also. But y'all good?
Yeah.
I find this bike keeping up. You know, I've ridden 300s here recently. I got a bunch of buddies who love dragging their bikes across the rocks, and they ride hard enduro. I'm not a big fan of hard enduro. I never have been. I'll ride some hard single track, but when it comes to dragging my shit across rocks in creeks and dumping my bike in a creek, I don't find that very fun. Like what I'm doing right now is a blast. This bike will do that. It's just, there's better bikes for that. So you kind of need to know what your goal is to begin with before you buy this bike or any dual sport. If you're going to be riding gravel roads, I mean, a 450 RL or a KLX or a WR will probably be a better choice than this. Whenever I went out to purchase this bike, what I had in mind was a motocross / hare scramble bike that had a tag on it. And this is what this bike is. That's what you're getting. Out of the box, they're very well built. I do see why the premium is on KTM after riding this bike. especially since I rode Yamaha my entire life. The suspension on this thing is just absolutely perfect. I've said it, I'll say it again. This thing makes tons of power. Out of the box, they're pretty corked up. You can get rid of that cork by the Promoto built-in cap. I keep the spark arrestor in it, keeps it quiet. But yeah, this thing, I have a test that I go off of, and that's would I buy it twice? And that's with anything. This bike, knowing what I know now, I don't know that I'd buy the dual sport version of this bike. I'd buy the regular 350 and another dual sport. Because ultimately, what I'm going to end up doing is buying another bike, maybe another 350 to set up for racing. So like I said, if you set this thing up to do Supermoto with some Supermoto wheels, and you lower the suspension and you gear it to fly down the highway, it's going to do that well. It's not going to do dirt stuff. And just like I've set this thing up to do dirt stuff, it's not going to do highway stuff very well. Not sure where I'm going. Kind of sucks being out here by yourself. As far as mechanical issues with this bike, I've not had anything other than fork seals go bad on it. I did my first valve check about 25 hours ago, and it was absolutely perfect. I change my oil religiously, dude. I don't go extended periods of time, and that's one thing with this bike that really goes unchecked for a lot of people. Is they don't change their oil like they should. This is a motocross bike. I know you're riding it on the road, but you need to change the oil every 10 hours. There's no way around that. You have to. Especially once clutches wear in, and you know, things start breaking down. If you ride this thing hard, you're flipping the clutch all day, you know, change the oil at the end of the weekend. You don't want to have to rebuild this thing prematurely. 200 hours, you're going to have to put a top end on it because you were too cheap to buy a filter and oil and take 45 minutes of your time to do some maintenance. That's with any four stroke, dude. This is where this bike excels. I just plugged that through here like third gear. Love this thing. Yeah. Do your maintenance. You're gonna have to stay on top of it if you buy this bike. It's a high maintenance machine. No different than any race bike. People boast, you know, 15 or so hour oil changes. I refuse to go that long on an oil change in this bike. This weekend, I'll ride for 5 or 6 hours, and it'll get an oil change at the end of the weekend. It's slick out here today. It rained all week, as you can tell. Woo! As far as the suspension goes, and like I said, I changed fork seals. I raced a mud race and then pressure washed the bike afterwards, and it ruined the fork seals. It doesn't matter what brand bike you got, that's going to happen. Out of the box, this thing likes to run lean and has like a lean stall to it, and you're going to drop this thing 100 times whenever you first buy it. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can really do about it. It's just a 4-stroke thing. You just have to learn to ride around it. Brushy Mountain, playing around, having a good time. So I thought I'd leave you a little bit of information. Things to consider about these things. You know, I bought this thing on an impulse. I was literally just mad at work one day. I called the KTM dealership, said, y'all got this in stock? And went and bought it that weekend. So, best decision I ever made. Not the best financial decision I ever made. But a good decision nonetheless. Oh, that was a hole. Woohoo! That was a hole. Maybe I'll link up with some dudes here in a minute, get to go ride. Not a lot of people here today. Pumped up. This bike floats over most everything here, especially after I put a little bit thicker oil in the suspension. I went from 4-weight to 5-weight, and it really dampened everything down a little bit. I had to soften it up. Makes this shit so easy. Whoops. This is an incredibly tall motorcycle for somebody who's short, by the way. So, keep that in mind. I'm tiptoeing pretty much everywhere I put my feet down at. Some of these holes are deep. Are really big. Just float. Love it. Absolutely love it. Not sure which way is which. I don't know if that's a shortcut or if that's the long way. I guess we're going up. Oh, I know where I'm at. That's a messed up hill climb right there. I know exactly where I'm at. It's been so long since I've been up here. That's a deer! Woohoo! Oh deer! Oh deer! Another deer! That was awesome. Right, let's keep going. Let's talk about riding this thing on the road a little bit. You're looking at dual sport, you're obviously looking at this video, wanting an opinion on it. The thing, like I said, it's a dirt bike, it's not really a street bike. It's not that comfortable. It's very lightweight, so you get blown around, especially when a big truck passes you. And it's an attention magnet. People love a brand new KTM. People always give you thumbs ups and they're excited to see it, and that's good, I guess, if you're into that. I'm not really into that, but then there's the negative side of that, and that's this thing's also a cop magnet, dude. They don't have nothing else better to do but mess with you when you're on this thing. I abide every law I can. I try to do the speed limit. I ain't riding wheelies every time I get a chance. And it doesn't matter. They're gonna follow you. They're gonna tell you. They're gonna make you nervous, and they're gonna want you to screw up. That's just, I don't know. I can't explain it. You know, I've had fast cars over the years. I've had loud cars over the years. I've had loud sound systems in in my truck growing up, and I've had more cops follow me for no reason other than just to follow me to see if I'm going to screw up while I'm on this bike. So keep that in mind. If you want a bike that's a little bit more incognito, low key, maybe something like a KLX or a Suzuki DR 650 or something like that, something that's a little low key, they're probably not going to mess with you as much. But this thing, it's an attention magnet for sure on the road, so keep that in mind, especially if you have a job that requires you to have a license with no points on it. Probably something to think about. Easy way, we're not doing no easy ways. That's something to think about on the road. Whew, that's gotten rough. On the road, it's every time I'm on it, I'm thinking of all the engine hours I'm putting on it, just riding in straight lines, because that's mostly what the road is straight lines around here. So you get on some twisties, then it gets a little fun, but it's still like riding knobby tires on a twisty road. It's whatever, you know? Definitely in the wrong gear. You don't have to really ride this thing up on the pipe. You can pretty much plug it anywhere you want. What's up? Yeah, it's gotten rough over the years. I remember when this was all dirt. Oh, mud hole. Woohoo! On up the hill I go. Yeehaw! Woo!